My name's Twinsen. Does that ring a bell? I set up the studio in 2021 with Didier Chanfray, one of the original creators of LBA. The original idea was to revive old licenses. I started with a license that's dear to me, Little Big Adventure. The first one was born in '94, followed by a second in '97. Almost 30 years later, when I wanted to create a studio, I thought I have to try and bring Albert back. So I called Didier. Benoit's project was interesting because it was a new adventure starting. I could also get involved with what I wanted to do again in production. I managed to convince him and we created the studio together. My goal was to form a team that mixed original creators, die-hard fans, and people who didn't know the game. For us to have this mix of people to create a game that appeals to both fans and new players. Are we keeping the same scenario for the remake? The end goal stays the same. The aim is still to save the planet, but there have been some changes to how this can be achieved. Yes. One of the things we were particularly keen to implement was to instill a sense of consistency between LBA 1 and 2. When we made the first one, we actually had no idea that there would be a second one. And it shows. We've also improved accessibility after getting complaints, especially from the first game. We made some improvements in the second game, making it more accessible. Our goal is obviously for the player to complete their mission. The save system is much less limited than in the original game. For us, our issue is that there are two games. There's LBA 1 and LBA 2, with two rather different artistic directions. LBA 1 is a detailed 3D isometric game, while LBA 2 is one of the first 3D outdoor games. It's important for us to unify these two art styles. We then asked ourselves why LBA was so successful at the time. It worked because it was different. So it really brings us back to, why did they make those specific choices? The idea was to find a unique artistic direction, something we believe hasn't been seen before, at least not in video games. The artistic choice made with Paolo Torino was exceptional because it's fan art from the get-go. When we looked at what the community was doing, I noticed the fan art pages, which caught my eye for potentially tweaking the art style a bit differently. And Benoit also showed up one day with these same pages, and I said to him, yeah, let's try to reach out to him. And here we are. And we thought that there was, simultaneously, this dreamlike, poetic side to the original game, and this very modern, unique element that would appeal to the most people with the artistic choices that were made, so we already wanted to shake things up a bit. We realized it was already starting to look a little dated due to the heavy technical constraints at the time. But we also didn't want to go in the opposite direction. We wanted it to look fresh. Little Big Adventure was known for its different behavior modes where you could be normal, athletic, aggressive, or stealthy, so each time you played a little bit differently. Here, we decided to do away with this system in favor of a dynamic system, where you can walk, run, hit, and all that without actually changing your behavior. The core game design was based on this. We removed them, but not totally, more in the sense of contextualization. It makes a big difference, both in terms of gameplay and coding. We're looking to modernize things. And the third element is that we have a scene-based game which, at the time, gave the illusion that it was open world, while it was actually just cubes. This time we've tried to have and to really create this open world by trying to add something extra to the game through this continuous geography. And I think, in this respect, we've done a pretty good job. We opted for Unity because Sebastian Vianney, our lead programmer, worked on mobile porting a few years back and developed a little prototype that actually works to detect the level, so Twinsen can keep progressing. And we decided on this prototype to do what we call an import of the original game into Unity. So what are the community's expectations? To be completely honest, what the community wants is LBA 3. It was supposed to be a trilogy. We made the first and second, but never the third. My mission now, and our mission, as a whole in the studio, is for the remake of the first to work so we can remake the second and ultimately make LBA 3. The community has been behind us since day one. That's a lot of people, but more importantly, they're very, very active. They really do help us out. For example, we're launching the translations of the dialogues because actually, we want to keep the translations from 30 years ago and reintegrate them today. A community member created a tool that lets me type any word and get its translation in any language from the original game. We really are incredibly lucky. And what's funny is that the fans sometimes know the game better than the creators themselves. We prefer to ask fans difficult questions rather than seek internal answers. A common question is whether we'll have new music from Philippe Vacher. I am delighted to announce that Philippe is back, and we are having a new soundtrack for the remake.